Listen to your favorite shows live and on demand 24/7. Download the 77 WABC mobile app now. A common sense recap of the day's biggest stories. It's John Catsimatidis and Rita Cosby. Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
And now joining us, guys, is Don Mihalek. He's a former senior special agent. And Don, I remember you and I, we were dealing with Hugo Chavez years ago. So you and I go a bit back. Your reaction to what we heard today from the acting director of the Secret Service, who essentially gave no answers, and it's been 3 weeks and still seems to be pointing fingers. It just, one of the things we were just talking about with Vito and Judge Weinberg here in studio, it's like, how could the Secret Service be that inept that it's like some epiphany to now they're going to say, well, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. It's like law enforcement 101.
Yeah, Rita, and you probably remember when we were running around the UN and I ran into you during the UN General Assembly. You know, protection and what the Secret Service does for protection is actually pretty complex. It's not as easy as people thinks it is, especially when trying to coordinate multiple agencies for an event, especially if you go into some place that isn't used to it. Not every place is New York City, where NYPD pretty much does it routinely. And you can walk in and they basically, NYPD has an off-the-shelf package that they have ready anytime the president shows up. A lot of other places aren't like that. And what the Secret Service finds itself doing in these places is walking in and basically having to put together a security plan from scratch, working with the local and state folks who want to be helpful, but don't have that experience base. So you're trying to build this plan and put this plan together and then teach them what the expectations are. What the director was trying to say, what the acting director was trying to say here is clearly there was a failure in putting the security plan together because that level of communication with the state and locals didn't happen. And when they were looking at the security plan and evaluating the site and looking at security gaps and threats and whatnot, you know, his view, and I agree with him, is that building should have been covered differently, and it wasn't. It seems easy looking from the outside in, but, you know, putting these things together is not as easy as people think it is. It's like I always say, I've been using the baseball analogy. You know, the Secret Service is like the pitcher in a baseball game, and they've got all the players on the field around them that have to work together to win the game. But if one player has a lousy day, the pitcher could pitch a decent game, but the pitcher will still take the loss, even if the players, a couple of the players don't have a good game. So it's complicated. It's complex. There's 4 or 5 investigations going on that they've got to be concerned about. The FBI is doing the attempted assassination investigation. Secret Service is doing its mission assurance investigation with Homeland Security. And they've got all these congressional investigations and the bipartisan panel that the president put together. So
yeah.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, there is.
People think. And also, let's not forget, the VP just became the candidate, and she's picking a new running mate. So that's another monkey wrench that's getting thrown into the Secret Service campaign protective matrix, all with the same number of people, by the way. There's been no increase in people.
Yeah,
So
and by the way, yeah,
people,
you are quite down. I've seen some of the numbers, you know, and listen, you know, I know so many of the great men and women in Secret Service. I have such respect for them, but boy, oh boy, so much was dropped here. Vito.
I have just a quick question. I think it's on a lot of people's minds is what were the most glaring mistakes that were made? I get it. It's complicated and I'm not taking anything away from that. But is there anything or a number of things that have stood out from that fateful day that should have been rectified by now and been told to the American people to mitigate against anybody who says, hey, you know, something else was going on here. Conspiracy theory, say what you want. Is there anything that reveals itself to you that we can share?
Well, as far as the conspiracy theories, let's knock all that out. The conspiracy theories are all being perpetrated by foreign actors, Iran, Russia, China. They are intentionally filling social media feeds with fake accounts and filling it with conspiracy theories, and I like to call them useful idiots, are running around and propagating these conspiracy theories.
But Don, let me ask you though, don't you think, and I hear what you're saying, but don't you think also if Secret Service came out from day one, I mean, even Congress seems puzzled. They created some of these questions coming out there. Come on.
I just said on an interview earlier, the Secret Service learned a valuable lesson here. First of all, let me backtrack about today. The acting director's press conference was historic. No Secret Service director in history has ever come out after an incident and done a press conference with immediate availability. They historically just haven't done it. This is something new that the Secret Service is doing, which is a good thing, because I think what the Secret Service learned here is with the 24/7 news cycle, if you don't take control of the narrative and handle the narrative takes control of you, which is what happened here. And the service found itself on the back end of a narrative that they totally lost control over, and they totally have been abused by, and in some cases, rightfully so. What they should have done from jump is come out and said, look, this is what we have. This is what's going on. We're working with this. We're working with the FBI. We're working with these other folks. We're going to put this together. This is what we know. And then every couple of days, come in front of the American people and done
exactly.
That's what they should have done. And I think to Vito's point, that's one of the learning points for the Secret Service. Listen, the Secret Service, the federal government generally.
Yeah, Don, we just have a few seconds left. Go ahead real quick.
They don't do public affairs very well. I think this is a learning lesson for them.
Yeah, well, I think it's a learning lesson on security, too, Don. You guys have such great men and women. There's something went horribly wrong here.
Well, yeah, and I think as the acting director proposed, they're going to change a lot of things. They're going to drill down on some stuff. It's going to be very specific. Look, back in my day, you could walk in and go, hey, guys, let's secure this. It's a security plan, and people knew what to do. These days, it seems like you have to be very detail-oriented, very specific, because everybody wants to Google an answer.
Yeah. No, you're right. And listen, it's complex, but boy, the American public deserves answers, and certainly the former president does. Don, thank you. You got to come back again. You're terrific. Thank you.